John de Goya, pardon me, who's another Knight of Malta and the president of Jesuit Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., which is the nation's real capital.
That's right.
This guy is the one who brought over Yevgeny Primakov from the KGB to act as an advisor for the Department of Homeland Security. They also brought over Marcus Wolf, who was the former Stasi head of the East German secret police, who, thank God, he died just last year. So what they're doing is they're bringing in all of their communist secret police agents into the Department of Homeland Security and implement the same exact system that they pulled in Russia for the last 80 years so they can do it here. And it's the Jesuits who run it through men like John C. Gannon, all controlled by Georgetown. Okay. So that's where we are today, and this crusade, as I mentioned, has to be an American crusade, so it's no wonder why Tony Blair is beginning to withdraw British troops from Iraq. It's going to have to be an entire American crusade, yes.
I was curious about Robert over on the Kennedy family, and then if you could follow it up by...
You mean Bobby Kennedy?
Bobby, sorry. Yeah, Robert.
My mother's last name was McNamara. We called it Bobby.
Oh, okay. Anyways, and then also follow up by what do you think about the whole MacArthur situation? Was he a Jesuit who just got out of line, or what?
Okay. First of all, Bobby Kennedy. Remember, the Vietnam War was called Cardinal Spellman's War. His war. Much was accomplished in that war, particularly the unification and the working together of the Mafia and the CIA. That's why every one of our cities is floating in drugs. Because the Vatican's Mafia and CIA working together to bring it in from the Golden Triangle, and all the drugs are given to the Mafia Dons, and they make all the sales and sell billions of dollars worth, and then all this money is run through the Knights of Malta, their banks there in New York, and then all that money is taken and used for their underground facilities and anything else they want to finance in their international intelligence community. William Casey said, I want to have an international intelligence community that does not be beholden to the U.S. Congress. So that's how they finance it, through all the drugs and everything else they can do. Bobby Kennedy wanted to end the Vietnam War prematurely, just like JFK. Well, that was not good, because that was Spellman's Inquisition. And it later became Coke's Inquisition, Cardinal Coke. So because Bobby wanted to end the Vietnam War and he wanted to continue to prosecute these Mafia Dons, he was killed by the same people within the CIA and military intelligence that killed his brother. They killed him in Los Angeles, in control of the Los Angeles Police Department. That's why nothing good can come out of the LAPD. That's why I give O.J. Simpson the benefit of the doubt. And so the LAPD is totally corrupt, because they destroyed some 10,000 pieces of evidence, according to William Pepper in his book, Orders to Kill, that would have shown collusion with the intelligence communities killing Robert Kennedy. William Pepper, Orders to Kill, you must read it.
What do you suppose is do you think these things sort of like the Waco incident, the Ruby Ridge incident, Indianapolis Baptist Temple, various things along this line, are just muscle flexes to let people know?
Muscle flexes and a test.
Just to see what can be pushed and
what can be pushed, that's right. And since they had no resistance, they go to 9/11. And no resistance to that, more war. But what we're happening here, what's happening, did I cover everything you mentioned? MacArthur. Remind me to go back to George Bush and his loss of popularity. MacArthur. General Douglas MacArthur was a servant of the Jesuit order from the very beginning. And that was a hard one for me to grasp, because I always liked him.
And a high-level Freemason.
He was a 33rd degree Freemason. General Douglas MacArthur was the one behind the burning of Hooverville. You remember that?
No.
Yes, that's the town that everybody created in the Mall of D.C., isn't it?
Yes. And why did they create that?
Well, because they had no other place to go. It was kind of like a demonstration.
And that was a demonstration. They had no place to go, and they wanted their $1,000 bucks.
They wanted their money.
They wanted their $1,000 bucks. They were all World War I veterans. And they were promised this money. And because of the Great Depression, they didn't have anything, so they wanted it a little bit sooner. Okay? So they called it a tent city, and they built it with cardboard and all that. Herbert Hoover gave the order to disperse them. But MacArthur, because he's working with FDR and Al Smith, he destroys Hooverville. He burns it and he drives them out.
Which is when Hoover's popularity really began.
That's when it just was destroyed. That was the shoe-in for FDR. That made him president.
So do you think that Hoover was a victim of circumstance?
In that issue, but you see, he was dirty. Because Hoover was the one who went over to Russia and brought $60 million worth of food and other supplies to supply the Bolsheviks so the Bolshevik Revolution would be a success.
And he later became like president of something, or was it the Supreme Court that he was on? Or
No, that was Taft.
He was in charge of something.
He was the Secretary of Commerce.
That's what it was.
In 1922, under Warren Harding. Warren Harding was another 33rd degree Freemason, but he was a very good president as far as the things he implemented. No internationalism, no League of Nations. He did a whole bunch of good things, but they poisoned him too. So anyway, that's what happened to MacArthur. So MacArthur, then they use him, and he conducts the war in the Far East. And the war in the Far East was completely managed. It could have been won easily. There was no reason for Tarawa and Iwo Jima and all those sacrifices. They were not necessary. But MacArthur's part of the betrayal of Indianapolis. MacArthur's the builder of the Cold War. There's huge communists over there. We have this communist threat that's going to come. It's going to kill us all. It's nonsense. The communists couldn't make a wheelbarrow.
Nothing covered.
They couldn't do anything. The Russia was nothing. They had no paved roads in the name of Christ. They had nothing. They were never a threat unless Communist Russia and China was built by American industry, and they needed more time. And because Kennedy wanted to end it prematurely, because our enemies weren't quite yet built, they killed him. And MacArthur played along with it the whole way. He continued to beat the anti-Cold War drum. What about Korea? Well, evidently MacArthur, for a moment, wanted to win Korea.
Yeah,
because when he landed his destroyers at Incheon, the tides at Incheon rose and fell 40 feet. So he left the destroyers on the beach. He went in there, he defeated the Chinese. And for that, Dirty Harry Truman relieves him of his command. Because you see, General, we got to lose Korea. I believe God in His providence did not allow South Korea to go at that time because there were many of His elect there that needed to be saved.
Amen.
So there was much missionary work that went on there after.
What about the one thing that's been brought up quite a bit is the U.S.'s Liberty?
Liberty. The Liberty was aiding the Arabs. It was a spy ship, and it was aiding the Arabs. And the other thing is, this was done, I believe, on order of the Vatican to ultimately begin the turn against Israel by the American people. Because it was not necessary. The whole 67 war was orchestrated. There was no need for that.
I mean, our own president turning around and saying, I want that blank ship on the bottom of the ocean.
That's right, Lyndon Johnson. Lyndon Johnson was an absolute Jesuit temple coadjutor. His best friend was a priest from Francis Xavier Church in Stonewall, Texas, Winnable Snyder. Johnson's mistress was a Roman Catholic. She had a son to him.
He wasn't from Texas. Let's point this out.
No, he was from Texas.
No, he wasn't.
Are you sure? Well, his grandfather was a Baptist and from Texas.
Are you insinuating he was stepping out by saying mistress?
Well, I'll tell you, I have a book I just purchased at a yard sale. It shows Pope Pius, whatever it was, after Kennedy was assassinated. Paul VI coming to New York, meeting with Lyndon Johnson.
Yes.
And the first persons that he goes to see is Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the whole
Just to
system?
rub her nose
Obviously,
in it, and to go see the other boys.
she saw what went on, so how did they keep her quiet? Or did
They threatened to kill her
shut up
children.
the marriage, or I mean, what?
They threatened to kill her kids. They threatened to kill her kids. You talk, Carolyn's dying, and so is John Jr.
But they did anyway.
They didn't kill Carolyn. Carolyn's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, the very murderers that killed her father.
No.
And they killed John Jr. because he got out of line later on when he grew up. But she married Onassis. He's a Knight of Malta. He's a Greek Knight of Malta.
Wow.
Along with Spyros
Did she really have a choice in that, you think, or was that to keep her
She was
in
already
check?
pregnant once with his kid.
Well, supposedly, yeah, she was already pregnant by him. I think that was part of him taking care of her after they killed her husband. Yes.
I talked to a fella at church. He was in the Navy in World War II in the Pacific, and he said he was on a carrier fleet that was instructed to sail into a typhoon under General Nimitz.
Yes, yes.
Instructed in that, he said they lost it. In his
Easily before. But see, we're working both sides, because why do they do this? We have to bomb Japan back to the Stone Age. And after we bomb Japan and totally destroy everything of its ancient culture, then we're going to rebuild it so it can make cars, and so it can be this huge commercial empire to use it on the side of China for our future invasion.
Do you suppose that we have outside in the political realm or in the governmental realm of the world, do we have any allies